The secret tunnel under cell block D, real prison escape story. The night the walls whispered. Before we start, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because once you hear this story, you'll never look at prison walls the same way again. It was the kind of night where silence felt alive. The date, June 5, 2015. The place, Clinton Correctional Facility, a maximum security prison tucked deep in the quiet town of Dannemora, New York. Most of the 2,900 inmates were asleep. But in cell 23D, two men weren't sleeping. They were waiting. Richard Matt, age 48, was serving 25 years to life for murder. Charismatic, manipulative, and dangerously charming, he had a reputation for getting what he wanted. Across the narrow cell block, his younger partner, David Sweat, 35, was quieter, meticulous, calculating, a man whose eyes never stopped searching. 4 months, the pair had lived like ghosts within the prison, following routines, trading jokes with guards, blending into the background. But behind the walls, something else had been building. A plan. At exactly 11:30 p.m., the fluorescent lights above the block flickered once. To most inmates, it meant nothing. To Matt and Sweat, it was the sign. Sweat pulled back his metal bunk. Behind it was a square hole, barely wider than a man's shoulders. The paint around it had been scraped smooth, the edges filed clean. Behind that, darkness. A tunnel. He slipped inside first, crawling through a maze of pipes, his breathing shallow in the metallic air. The sound of distant dripping echoed like a clock ticking down to freedom. Behind him, Matt followed, carrying a bag of tools and a single flashlight wrapped in cloth. They had been working on this hole for 5 months, using smuggled hacksaw blades hidden inside frozen hamburger meat. They'd stolen power from the prison's electrical lines to run drills. And every night, they covered their work with cardboard, painted to match the wall. No one had noticed. As they crawled through the maintenance shaft, the smell of grease, rust, and steam surrounded them. They were moving through the prison's belly, its forgotten veins. Sweat led the way, following a faint chalk marking he'd scratched weeks earlier. The space tightened. The pipes groaned. Then, finally, a faint breeze whispered through a gap ahead. They had reached the steam tunnels, ancient, corroded metal chambers used to heat the facility. Sweat dropped down first, landing on a slick concrete floor. He looked up. Endless tunnels stretched in both directions. Their flashlight beam carved through the gloom like a knife. "We're in," he muttered. Matt grinned. "Told you the map was right." But he wasn't smiling for long. The sound of a vent rattling behind them made both men freeze. Footsteps? No, just the hiss of pressure. They pressed on. Each intersection was a gamble. The tunnels were a labyrinth, some sealed for decades, others leading to live boilers that could roast them alive. Twice, they nearly turned back. But Sweat's instincts and Matt's nerve kept them moving forward. At 2:15 a.m., they reached a ladder. It led upward toward a steel grate. Sweat climbed first, pushing against it. Nothing. Sealed shut. Matt passed him a tool wrapped in a shirt, a modified wrench. Sweat jammed it between the bars and twisted until the bolts snapped loose. He pushed again. The grate gave way. Above them, moonlight spilled through the mist. Cold air filled their lungs. They were outside the prison walls. They crawled up through the ground like men being reborn. When Sweat turned back, he saw the lights of Clinton Correctional glowing faintly behind the fence. They were free. But freedom didn't mean safety. As they ran toward the woods, the first siren screamed. Guards realized something was wrong when they found 2 empty beds and perfectly folded uniforms. The prison's most dangerous men were gone, and no one knew how. By morning, the town of Dannemora was locked down. Police swarmed the area, helicopters thundered overhead, and the governor himself called it an extraordinary breach. But as the investigation began, one question echoed through every briefing room. How could 2 convicted killers carve through concrete, crawl under steel, and walk out of a maximum security prison without anyone noticing? The answer lay deep beneath cell block D, where a series of forgotten tunnels held secrets no one wanted to face. And the first person to reveal those secrets wasn't a guard or an investigator. It was a woman who worked inside the prison cafeteria, someone who had been closer to the escape than anyone ever imagined. Her name was Joyce Mitchell, and when detectives knocked on her door, her first words were, "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." The woman who opened the gate. The morning after the escape, Clinton Correctional Facility was a war zone of confusion and disbelief. Helicopters hovered above, K-9 units circled the perimeter, and the small town of Dannemora, New York, found itself swarmed by hundreds of officers from across the state. Two inmates, Richard Matt and David Sweat, had vanished from one of the most secure prisons in America. No broken fences, no alarms, no trace. It was as if they had been swallowed by the earth. Inside the command room, prison officials replayed hours of surveillance footage, searching for anything unusual. But between midnight and 5 a.m., nothing. The cameras pointed exactly where they should have, except for the one hallway camera leading to cell block D. For reasons no one could explain, it had been offline for 37 minutes that night. Governor Andrew Cuomo himself arrived that afternoon. "This wasn't luck," he told the press. "This was planned. This was calculated. And someone helped them." He was right. Joyce Mitchell was 51 years old, a prison seamstress supervisor who ran the tailor shop where inmates repaired uniforms and stitched clothing for guards. She'd worked at Clinton for more than a decade and was considered dependable, friendly, and harmless. But when detectives visited her home that morning, she looked pale, shaking, unable to speak. The questions were simple. Did she know the men? Had she spoken to them recently? Had she noticed anything strange? "Yes," she whispered finally. "I knew them." Detectives leaned in. "I helped them a little." The room froze. Mitchell went on to describe a friendship that had started like any other. Richard Matt was charming. He painted portraits for the guards, cracked jokes, and made her feel seen in a life that had grown dull. David Sweat was polite, quieter, observant. Over time, both men began to rely on her for small favors. A screwdriver here, extra fabric there. Nothing that seemed dangerous at first. Then things changed. Matt began to compliment her, draw her sketches, tell her she was beautiful. He told her he cared about her, that she deserved more than the life she had. Mitchell, who was married, said she believed him. The flattery became manipulation. "He made me feel like I mattered," she said through tears. By April 2015, she was sneaking in tools hidden in frozen hamburger meat deliveries. Metal bits, screwdrivers, and even hacksaw blades. The men called her Tilly. She called them my boys. They promised her a fantasy, escape together, start over, a new life in Mexico. She was supposed to meet them on the outside the night of June 5th. She'd even packed a getaway bag, cash, clothes, a rifle. But as the day drew near, she panicked. Her husband had found her acting strange. The guilt clawed at her. The night of the escape, she was supposed to wait near a manhole on Route 374, just outside the prison's perimeter. But she never showed. Inside the facility, investigators began retracing every possible route the men could have taken. When they reached cell 23D, they couldn't believe what they saw. Behind the bunk, an open cavity leading into the wall. Inside, a narrow pipe tunnel carved with precision. Each section led deeper beneath the cell block, through a series of steam and maintenance pipes. Investigators followed the route. It twisted and turned through darkness, some spots only large enough to crawl through. After 40 yards, they reached a small, cut-out section of concrete that opened into an ancient heating tunnel. From there, the path stretched toward the outer perimeter. At the tunnel's end lay a corroded steel pipe, freshly cut open. Someone had patched it with cardboard and duct tape to disguise the work. A final crawl led to a manhole cover outside the fence, the exit. They'd slipped out right under everyone's feet. The discovery shocked the nation. How could two convicted killers carve through solid steel and concrete without being noticed for months? The answer came from years of overlooked maintenance problems, blind spots in the camera system, outdated infrastructure, and staff stretched too thin to inspect every detail. But the deeper investigators dug, the more one truth became clear. They hadn't escaped from Clinton Correctional. They'd escaped through it. Mitchell's confession became the missing puzzle piece. She admitted to smuggling tools, passing blueprints, and even discussing killing her husband so she could flee with the inmates. Her story horrified the public and fascinated the media. She thought she was in love, one investigator said. They thought she was a key. By the time the world learned her name, Matt and Sweat were already days ahead, hidden in the thick forests of upstate New York, surviving on stolen food and adrenaline. Hundreds of officers, drones, and helicopters combed the Adirondack Mountains. Every snapping branch, every rustle of leaves sent chills through local towns. Schools closed. Residents locked their doors. And then, 10 days into the manhunt, a farmer reported hearing something in his shed: footsteps, quiet breathing, and the unmistakable sound of a man whispering, "Stay quiet." When officers arrived, they found food wrappers, blankets, and an empty can labeled Danby's Diner. Sweat and Matt had been there. They were getting closer to the Canadian border. But freedom, as they'd soon learn, had an expiration date. By June 20, 2015, the hunt for Richard Matt and David Sweat had become one of the largest manhunts in New York State history. Over 1,000 officers, federal agents, and tactical teams swept through the Adirondack wilderness, searching every cabin, barn, and culvert from Dannemora to the Canadian border. But the forest was their advantage. That's cold. Endless. Helicopters circled above day and night, their spotlights carving across treetops like restless ghosts. Officers followed broken branches, cigarette butts, and boot tracks, but every clue seemed to vanish into the wilderness. Locals whispered about shadows near their barns. One farmer claimed his dog barked at an unseen figure in the fog. Another found a half-eaten sandwich on his porch the morning after hearing footsteps outside. Matt and Sweat were ghosts, living off rainwater, stolen food, and hope. 4 days, they hid in hunting cabins, lighting small fires with stolen matches, whispering plans about what came next. Mexico was no longer possible. Crossing into Canada was their only chance. But cracks were forming in their partnership. Sweat was focused, disciplined, determined to survive. Matt, older, restless, and alcoholic, had started taking risks. He wanted real food, warmth, a drink. On June 26th, after 3 weeks on the run, the first break in the case came. A homeowner near Malone, New York, reported hearing a gunshot echo from the woods. Within hours, troopers and Border Patrol agents converged on the area. A single drop of fresh blood on the leaves told them someone was hit. Then came the report. A camper near Duane, a small rural town, had heard movement by his RV. When he stepped outside, he saw a man, scruffy, tired, and armed. The man pointed a shotgun at him but didn't fire. The camper backed away and called police. Minutes later, officers surrounded the area. Through binoculars, they saw him, Richard Matt, limping, clutching a 20-gauge shotgun. The forest erupted with shouts. "Drop your weapon." Matt turned, raised his gun, just a little. A single shot from a state police marksman dropped him instantly. The escape's mastermind, the charismatic painter who dreamed of beaches and freedom, was gone. News of Matt's death hit the country like a thunderclap. Every outlet covered the story. Clinton Correctional was once again under siege, this time by cameras and reporters. But one man was still out there, David Sweat. 2 days later, on June 28th, a state trooper driving along a rural road near Constable, New York, spotted a man in the distance jogging along a tree line. The man wore head-to-toe camouflage and carried a small backpack. It was 3:20 p.m. When the trooper shouted for him to stop, the man bolted into a field. A chase followed through waist-high grass and mud. Sweat was fast, his legs pumping, lungs burning, but he'd lost too much strength. He'd been on the run for 22 days. The trooper fired 2 shots. One struck Sweat in the shoulder, another in the torso. He collapsed in the grass, gasping. When officers reached him, he whispered, "I should have gone north sooner." They cuffed him, lifted him onto a stretcher, and flew him by helicopter back to custody. In the days that followed, the story of their escape became a blueprint of corruption, opportunity, and human weakness. Investigators found layers of failure, guards ignoring routine cell checks, maintenance reports falsified, and contraband moving freely through the prison system. Some guards were disciplined. Joyce Mitchell, the woman who had smuggled the tools, pleaded guilty to promoting prison contraband and facilitating escape. When asked in court why she did it, her voice cracked. "I thought I was helping two people who cared about me," she said. "But I didn't realize they were using me." She was sentenced to 7 years in prison. As for David Sweat, he was transferred to a new maximum security facility, 5 Points Correctional, where he now spends 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. The prison, once considered secure, spent millions reinforcing walls, upgrading cameras, and sealing tunnels. Yet the scar of that summer night remained. Governor Cuomo called it a wake-up call. But for the people of Dannemora, it was a reminder of how fragile safety truly is. Years later, documentaries, podcasts, and TV series would revisit the case, dissecting every detail: the hacksaw blades hidden in hamburger meat, the hand-drawn maps, the whispered love affair that unlocked a gate no one else could. Tourists even began visiting Dannemora, hoping to glimpse the manhole where two men crawled out into the dark. But the truth was simpler and darker. Their escape wasn't about cunning or genius. It was about trust, misplaced, abused, and shattered. In the end, two men had found freedom for 22 days. A woman lost her life as she knew it, and a prison that claimed to be unbreakable learned that even steel has weaknesses. Before sentencing, Sweat was asked if it had all been worth it: months of planning, years of waiting, days of hunger and fear. He looked down and said quietly, "I just wanted to feel the air without bars between us." That single line, captured in court transcripts, still haunts anyone who hears it. Because sometimes the price of freedom isn't escape. It's everything that comes after. If you thought this story was unbelievable, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe, because the next escape I'm about to tell you makes this one look like a rehearsal.